My name is Rachel Ida Buff. I am an associate professor in the history department. I run the comparative ethnic studies program, and I'm a faculty senator, which is part of our faculty governance system. There was a period a couple years ago where it was fairly consistent that 2 or 3 or 4 times in the semester a student would come to my office and say, Dr. Buff, I really like your class, but I can't afford to be here anymore. And so I think that's been the most painful thing to watch, because I've spent my career in public institutions of higher education. I'm really committed to the idea that our democracy rests on the availability of education to all people, and I see it becoming less and less available to lots of people, and that really scares me. We're told that we're in a time of fiscal crisis and austerity, but it's really important to contextualize that by seeing, Scott Walker has turned down federal money for badger care. He turned down a proposal by the Menominee tribe to pay for the arena downtown. He's turned back monies. He's cut taxes on the wealthy landowners in the state. There are lots of places. If we believed, and I deeply believe in this, if we believed in free public higher education, we could have it. We do not have a fiscal crisis. So having said that, $300 million of cuts in 2 years is devastating. So I think the very idea that higher education, that college is a time where you learn, you open yourself to the world, you explore, you figure out things, and then you also credentialize as part of that. I think that is really on the chopping block. I think it's going to become a place where students are kind of frantically impelled to find a major and find something, there's going to be a lot of emphasis on job training as opposed to education, and it's going to be very hard for students to complete their degrees. I have tried to figure this out. I have asked all the way up to the chancellor's office at UWM for the math on this term we keep hearing, flexibility. There's going to be more flexibility, so there's going to be budget cuts, but if we move to a public authority system, there will be flexibilities. And I'm fairly convinced that there is no math. I mean, President Krause said at the end of today, I'll get you those numbers. But I think my real worry is that the flexibility is human, not fiscal. Flexibility will come at firing adjunct instructors, getting rid of professors, getting rid of classified staff, and raising tuition. I suspect that that's the flexibility that really is. I'm happy to be persuaded, I really am, but nobody's giving me any data. And as a historian, I'm fairly data driven. Show me the numbers. Show me how we're going to save all this money, because otherwise I suspect that what's going to be saved is you and me. It's she doesn't really need that scholarship, and she doesn't really need that job, or, I don't want the flexibility to be human. I want it to be fiscal. The President, Krause, spoke today about his positions, but so much of what he said was about things being closed door and behind the scenes. And I understand he's got to have an inside game. That's great. That's why we pay him the big bucks. But I would like to see a little more advocacy from the system. I have a problem at UWM. Our kids are at stake. I would like to see more leadership from system about the broad picture. And I found most troubling when the president said, you want me to take a side. And I guess I think, you run the UW system. That's not a side. It's not political. You have to be for what we do here. Advocacy shouldn't be political in this way. Advocacy should be your job, is to advocate for us. I think some of what he said in the course of the hearings, his advocacy for the humanities, which I haven't heard before, his repeated assurances that he supports faculty governance in Chapter 36, I think some of his responses were very positive. I find deeply troubling, again, the idea that he thinks advocating for UW is taking a side. Advocating for UW is his job.